Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, hello everyone, welcome back to our third podcast of Economics Managerial. So, in today's podcast, we would like to discuss another topics related to the production process and the cost. So, basically, we have two different discussion about this topic. For the first part, it will be on our presentation, and the second part will be in this podcast. So in the topics of the production process and the cost, we have various discussion specifically on the cost minimization and analysis, also the input substitution, the cost complementary, cubic cost function, and other main topic. So we'd like to start with the cost analysis, but before that, we would like to introduce ourselves again. So my name is Rahmat. I'm from International Management Program, and this is my partner.
My name is Arinal Haqqa from International Management Program.
Okay, so we're going to make this podcast as the assignment from Mr. Fathurrahman. So without further ado, let's just start our first discussion regarding the cost minimization.
Purchase your tracks today.
Okay, so Arnal, let's just start with the first discussion regarding the cost minimization. So Arnal, did you know what is the cost minimization is? If not, so for me, the cost minimization is the process of reducing the expenditures on unnecessary and inefficient process. So basically, the process of cost minimization is one to reduce the unnecessary process of the cost minimization, and also there's change in spending can be slight or drastic, but any level of reduction in costs will likely have a dramatic effect on maximizing the profits. Also, the cost minimization strategy and effort can occur in any area of business, including manufacturing, the freight, the packaging, the finance, and also accounting, and last but not least, also at the human resource management. But I don't really know why do we need to use the minimization on cost. Can you explain that?
We need to know about this cost minimization because cost minimization is a necessary condition for profit maximization in competitive market. By analyzing operation and other areas of business and stripping down to the most efficient, lean and mean process, organizations are able to identify problem areas, change unproductive method, streamline producer, and ultimately reduce costs significantly. The simple function we can keep it. Cost minimization is a basic rule used by producer to determine what mix of labor and capital produce output at the lowest cost, and how we know we can get at the lowest cost. We can get the formula is marginal product of labor divided with weight equal to marginal product of capital divided with rental price of capital.
So everyone, like what Arinal said, that we need to do the minimized cost because the cost minimization is necessarily on the condition for profit maximization in competitive market. So now we need to know also why we choose the competitive analysis to provide cost minimization. So basically, the competitive analytic use advantage analysis and unique methodologies to optimize the process and identify unnecessary costs. It also said that it developed the customized strategic plan to minimize an organization cost in order to reach maximum efficiency and maximum profits. Okay, so everyone, currently we have already discussed about the cost minimization. So after this, we'll discuss about the optimal input substitution. So at first, I will discuss about the definition, and then Arina will tell or explain about the input substitution in production example. So basically, in the case of the cost function, the elasticity of substitution shown how shift in input price shift the ratio of the inputs, or more generally, it relates a percentage change in the ratio of inputs being used and terminal increase in the ratio of the marginal products of the inputs. And also, it indicates the substitutability of between any two pairs of aggregate inputs, including the capital, labor, energy, and also the materials, and between the energy form, including the coal, oil, gas, renewables with the energy aggregate. So So Arinal will explain about the input substitution in the production example.
Input substitution and production is divided by several types, and I will explain each of them shortly. First is labor and capital substitution. For example, banking service can be provided by human teller, by ATM machine, or some combination of the two. And then material substitution. For example, a bakery can make cakes using either cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup, or a combination of the two. And then capital and energy substitution. For example, pineapple are used to transport water, oil, and gasoline.
Okay, so everyone, we're going to talk about the cost analysis. So first, I will tell the definition. So basically, a cost benefit is a systematic process that businesses use to analyze which decision to make or which to forget. So basically, the concept of cost analysis want to provide the best decision that they have and forget the unnecessary decision. And also the cost analysis sum the potential reward expected from a situation or action, and then subtract the total cost associated with the taking that action. And also some consultant or analyst also build model to assign a dollar value on intangible items such as the benefit and cost associated with living in the certain town.
There are two types of costs, short run and long run.
Purchase your tracks
First, short
today.
run, there are production costs that are fixed and there are costs that can be changed. In the short run costs, there are fixed costs, a cost that do not change as output change. The formula is total cost minus variable cost per unit times unit produced. And then sunk cost, the cost that is forever lost after it has been paid. And then short run variable costs that vary with output.
Purchase
The
your
formula
tracks
is
today.
total cost minus fixed cost, and then short run total cost. The formula average total cost is average variable cost plus average fixed cost, and then total cost, the formula is fixed cost plus variable cost, and then marginal cost, the formula is delta cost per delta Q. And then the second type of cost is long run. In the long run, all costs are variable since manager is free to adjust level of all inputs. All costs are variable and no fixed costs.
Okay, so now I will explain about the cost analysis process. So basically there's several steps. I will explain it one by one. So the first one is to identify the project scope. So it's basically we identify the goals and also create a framework to mold the scope. And the second one is to determine the cost. So basically there are several types of the cost. Some of them are the direct cost, also the indirect cost, also the intangible cost, the opportunity cost, and last the cost of potential risk. And the next step is to determine the benefit. We have to really think about three important aspects. The first one is the higher revenue and the sales. The second one is the intangible benefit, and the third one is the competitive advantage. And last but not least is to compute the analysis calculation. So with the cost and the benefit figures in the hand, it's time to perform the analysis. And we have to think several things as well, like applying the discount rate, utilizing the various discount, and calculating the cost benefit, and level setting different option, and also last but not least to performing the sensitivity analysis. So everyone, that's all our explanation. After this we'll discuss about the total and the variable cost. So stay tuned. Okay, so everyone, now we will discuss about the total cost and the variable cost. So for the total cost will be explained by me, and the variable cost will be explained by Arinal. So first we'll discuss about the total cost. So the total cost is basically the sum of expenses a company needs to manufacture a specific level of the output. So basically it's a total of fixed and variable costs, calculating which help product manager evaluate their overall profit margin. So usually the business owner should process the information about the profit and the expenses to reassure that their companies are running smoothly. Total cost give the entrepreneurs an understanding of the firm, probability, and the performance. So basically, in the total cost, we have several steps to calculate its total cost. So some of them is the first, we need to sum up all the fixed costs. So these are the business expenses that aren't influenced by the number of manufactured product or services. And the second step is to find all the variable costs. So this refer to the expenses influenced by the number of products manufactured by a particular company. And the third step is to add all fixed and variable costs to the defined and the total cost. So once we have all the fixed costs and the variable costs, we can estimate the total cost by adding all the expenses. And the next step is to check the income statement to find the business cost. So basically the financial document contain the record about the performance of a certain company and its business activities. So I think I'm gonna give one example of the total cost. It's a business use a formula to obtain the metric that enables them to assess the probability. So the business owner compare total costs at different time intervals to figure out whether the firm need the most sellers, review pricing, or generate more revenue. So we can imagine that there's an apparel company. The owner of the business need to calculate the total cost to determine whether the firm brings any profit. So for the purpose, there is a necessary to obtain all fixed costs of this business. I think that's the example that I can give.
Okay, now I will explain about long run average total cost, and I will give an example. Long run average total cost is a business metric that represents the average cost per unit of output over the long run, where all inputs are considered to be variable and the scale of production is changeable. The example of long run average total cost is if in the video game industry, the cost to produce a game are high. However, the cost of making copies of a game once produced is marginal. So, once a company can establish itself, expand the customer base for a specific game, and raise the demand for that game, the extra output required to meet that demand lower overall cost in the long run. Okay, I think that's about long run average total cost.
Okay, so now let's discuss about the economic of scope. So basically an economic of scope means that the production of one good reduce the cost of production another related good. So the economic of scope occur when producing a wider variety of goods or services in tandem is more cost effective for a firm than producing less of variety or producing each good independently. And while economic of scope are characterized by efficiencies performed by variety, the economies of scale are instead characterized by volume. The latter refers to a reduction in marginal cost by producing additional units. The economic of scale, for instance, helped drive corporate growth in the 20th century through the assembly line, the production. And here are some of the key takeaways of this topic. First, the economic of scope describes the situation where producing two or more goods together results in a lower marginal cost than producing them separately. And last, the economic of scope can result for goods that are co-product or complements in production, goods that have complementary production process, or goods that share inputs to the production. And here I give one example of these topics. The example is assume that a company ABC is the leading desktop computer producer in the industry, and company ABC wants to increase the product line and remodels its manufacturing building to produce a variety of electronic devices
Purchase your
such
tracks
as
today.
laptop, tablets, or smartphone. And since the cost of operating the manufacturing built spread out across the variety of the products, the average total cost of production decreases. The cost of production each electronic device in another building would be greater than just using the single manufacturing building to produce the multiple product. So I think that's all my explanation about the scope of economics, and Arinal will
Purchase your
conclude.
tracks today.
Okay, the last point is cost complementary. Complementarity, which is requires that marginal or incremental cost of any output decline when that output or any other output increase. Provide such as condition. The example is if a sugar producing find that on producing
Purchase your tracks
molasses,
today.
its marginal cost is reduced when the output of sugar produced by them increase. It can be regarded that cost complementaries are taking place.
So everyone, I think we have already reached the end of the discussion. We have already discussed about the cost minimization and also the analysis. We have also discussed about the input substitution, cost complementary, also the cubic cost function and other related topics. So I think it's now the time for Arinal to take the conclusion of the whole discussion.
Okay, the conclusion we can take from all of this discussion is cost minimization is the process of reducing expenditure on unnecessary or inefficient process. This change is spending can be slight or drastic, but at any level of reduction in cost will likely have a dramatic effect on maximizing profit. For example, when we want to produce something, we need to know how we can get the lowest cost of producing process. And then we already know there are two types of costs, the short run cost and long run cost.
Okay everyone, I think that's all about our discussion. Thank you very much for attending our podcast. So thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.